So welcome everyone to our virtual Startup Grind event, the last event in November 2023. And today's topic we're focusing on is business messaging made simple with AI. We've had a lot of buzzwords on AI, but now I really want to know the business applications, and I hope that the viewers here would actually take away some of the sharings that our guest today, Bianca from Wati, will give to the audience. Welcome, Bianca. Thank you so much for being here. May I ask you to provide a brief introduction of yourself?
Thank you, Amrit. Thanks for kind of having me. My name's Bianca, and I'm the COO and co-founder for Wati. So I started my career at JP Morgan, which is an investment and private bank. And a few years in, I knew technology is really what I really, really, really care about and what kind of drives me to wake up every day. So I actually took a 75% pay cut to join a local startup in Hong Kong that's called One Sky. And through kind of like being a BD in One Sky, I was able to meet one of my mentors, Michael Hansen, and he was the first employee for Zendesk. For those who don't know, Zendesk was listed in New York Stock Exchange, and they were one of the biggest, they are still one of the biggest help desk companies globally. And they help kind of manage all business communications for many kind of large startups like Pinterest, Uber, Airbnb. I worked very closely with their CEO, Mikko, who is also the founder, into looking into China. So eventually I learned quite a lot there. And when the VC introduced Ken to myself, who's my co-founder, we decided to start Claire AI, and consequently we had pivoted to another product called Wati. And we've always been automating conversations. So really happy to be here today.
So obviously, what has been a evolution of Clear AI. Can you tell me what was your tangent? What made you make that change from your business proposition originally?
So our mission is the same, which is helping business to make messaging simple. And we understand that, intimately from, we use a lot of NLP, natural language processing in the early days. And back then there was no chat GPT as well. So I think one of the things that we did focus a lot was, okay, if we needed to automate conversations, who has a lot of conversations and who needs this type of service? And our early answer was enterprise, large companies. So we then looked into joining different accelerators to get into the door of financial institutions. And obviously that is quite a lot of work, right? Like to kind of at least kind of get your first client. And our first client is actually Fidelity Hong Kong. Slowly as the market evolved, we did believe, okay, actually there is a large market for small to medium businesses, and we're not capitalizing on that. And I think that's what drove the pivot to small to medium businesses, also still automating their conversations. And that's how we created Wati.
What would be the types of clients and functions of these SMEs that you've actually found has been using and found Wati useful for them?
So let me start with a couple, what we call ICP, ideal customer profiles. So we have 8,000 customers across 100 countries. So as you can think, it comes in all shape and all sizes. E-commerce is a very relevant and also frequently kind of used ICP within our company community. So within these clients, e-commerce, they can use us for e-commerce owners who has a Shopify shop. What they can do is they can automate a lot of that notification. Shopify does it very well for natively in email, but not very well on WhatsApp. So a lot of these e-commerce owners would want to do a couple of things, right? They want to increase their revenue. How they do that is usually they would add engagement button on WhatsApp on their kind of brand.com page. So say I have a Shopify shop, install the Wati plugin. Once they click on that, you can then kind of start to use WhatsApp to interact with the customer. They also do a lot of workflows. So for example, abandoned cart. So some of our customers are able to kind of get maybe like a 30x kind of ROI on our subscription by doing just this really simple setup, which is called abandoned cart. Essentially what that means is, say, like maybe you're busy and you're going to buy something, you're almost at the checkout page, but you haven't paid yet. Shopify captures that information and then sends it to Wati. Like, again, that has to do with like your whole setup. And then Wati can say like, hey, like maybe 30 minutes later and like say, hey, Amrit, I know you haven't checked out yet. Here's a coupon code. You can check out with 10% off. And you can just wrap up the purchase. So again, this is what we call abandoned cart. And we also believe in kind of customer intimacy. That's a really thing. That's also where a lot of the small to medium businesses do well on, right? Like, I mean, like there's such a wide variety of competition out there. What drives you to win? A lot of times it means customer intimacy. So they can also use Wati to communicate with their customers in an effective way, either via automated conversations or via kind of humans being in the loop. And you can route the conversation to different teams. Say, if it's a logistics question, maybe route to the shipping team. If it is like a sales related question, route to the sales team. And if it's support related, then you can route to your support team. So this is just one of the many use cases our customers use us for. I'm happy to expand on more if we have time.
All right. Well, I mean, I'd like to be able to look at our agency, for example, as a case, as a user case. So if I was to, because I'm a lean operation, and I think that, obviously there is the tipping point of manpower versus overheads, etc. So my concern is always about trying to leverage up on some sort of tools to help me with my growth. So what, in your experience and your design, if I'm non-tech and I'm sort of blasé to all this, so if I say, hey, Bianca, I really need to sort of look at my way of working, would you do a pre-assessment of our business, or do we just have to help ourselves? Do you have support to identify some of those gaps, or ask me to fill in a FAQ that would actually identify some of the things that I may be able to adopt Wati for? Because here's my thinking, right? It's not just about Wati and using that, it's the fulfillment, the entire sort of flow, because it could backlash if I have a expanded growth, but I didn't have the support for fulfillment. So I'm always in this catch-22 to think about these things. So for me, business messaging made simple with AI is a good thing, but also can be blind spots or catching me out, right? So in doing this case study, I'd like to have you walk through, say, for example, first of all, what would be my growth challenges that would limit me first, that might actually become a bottleneck and then whiplash me back to another pain point, right?
But like, let me do this. I think like we exist for a reason, and I think it always starts with like what the growth or business challenges you have, and then that's where you seek out potential solutions, right? Because I mean, like there's no point in like solving a problem that doesn't exist.
So I'll give you two of my pain points, right? So one of them is flight disruptions. I'm constantly having then to manage it sort of physically, right? Flight disruptions are one of them, but also let's say I want to now do a blast on a very time sensitive promotion that I just want to get out as quickly as possible. But then of course I also need to make sure that my answers for cliche questions would be answered without me having to use manpower, but I want to use the Wati platform to be able to assist me with that. Do I have to design everything? Do I have to, sort of curate the questions? What would I need to do for these two things to help my business?
Okay. I'll start off with the trigger. How do you get notified from a flight disruption perspective?
Oh, sometimes it's a manual, sometimes there's different channels. So good question, because we don't always get the notification per se. We have to actually sometimes look out for it. So we do get alerts occasionally, because the airlines sometimes don't have the technology to push it back to us.
Okay. And like, I mean, the promotion, then is it usually like, do you expect the customers to reach out to you, or and that's like the usual flow, or like do you usually say, hey, like this is the website? yeah,
That
usual
is the
flow.
usual flow, but I want to be able to now push it out because sometimes, sort of people are so busy, right? And I don't want that they miss out may have missed out a promotion that is so time sensitive with maybe a 1 week window, and that they could have already started the thinking process of which dates in their calendar as to use this promotion.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So like, let me come back to these two. So the first one with like flight disruptions, again, like the reason why I asked about trigger, it has to do with the automation piece, right? So if the trigger is manual, that's really hard to capture unless you're like, hey, like I've got a Google spreadsheet and I've got all the flights that my customers are on. Somehow there's some type of like monitoring going on. And if it's delayed more than 15 minutes, then I would send this out. Like that's also something that a lot of our customers do. We do have a Google Sheet plugin that is very easy. So what you can do is say like, okay, I don't know how you manage to kind of get the flight disruptions, but if you're like, okay, like maybe 6300, there are, these 5 customers and there are their numbers, I can trigger what you call a blast to these customers on a very timely basis, like sending 5 messages maybe take like 0.001 second within the Wati platform. And it's a very easy operation that your team can kind of use instead of like copy and pasting. But again, I would, take the number into account, right? Say like, copy and pasting 5 is usually quite easy. But you say, oh, no, actually maybe have 100 clients who are on that flight. Then that kind of like process becomes a lot more cumbersome and it makes more sense for Wati to be in part of that workflow. So again, I think, like it's usually like kind of coming back to the fundamental question, right? Like I know everyone runs a small to medium business who is super busy every day. They're kind of inundated with like firefighting. Like, I mean, I'm also a small to medium business owner, so I totally understand that. And the question is like, hey, like, do you, like, if you ask me at the end of the day, it's like, hey, is this problem worth solving and how does it help me to move the needle, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go back to that. And I think that's a more fundamental question that a lot of these small to medium businesses should think about, that comparing to, oh, I want to solve all the problems, because sometimes solving all the problems doesn't really bring you anywhere. So I think that's an important piece. The second one, like the blast and promotion, is actually something that a lot of our customers use. So they would have really timely, kind of like say, Double 11, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like a lot of these have really incremental help to e-commerce businesses, or even kind of what you say, like you guys run an agency. So what you can do there is actually curate lists of your customers, and then you can blast out that promotion. You can either do it via our platform and it will be reaching these customers on WhatsApp. You either do it via our platform, or you can also do it via like the Google spreadsheet that I said. Alternatively, the third route that I've seen a lot of success with kind of small to medium businesses is they use existing CRMs, and instead of sending in a email, they would send a WhatsApp. So we have integrations with Zoho, HubSpot, or kind of other CRMs like Lead Squared. And it really depends on kind of what you use and how that would kind of like come into play when it comes to reaching out to the customer. And I guess like the question is like, where is that list? The other thing that I think we do really well, which is super interesting, is like you build a list based on the conversation that you have with the customer. So for example, they all know to reach out to, say, Excella over WhatsApp, and then you would kind of track what they're asking about. You can also build a flow, what we call a flow, which is like, hey, they're interested in how to book or how to make changes to a reservation, or upcoming promotions, right? Like maybe these 3, and then you add a tag. You can then say, go into our platform because the tag is added. Then you can say like, oh, let me, again, coming back to your promotion question, let me target these people who have asked about a promotion in the last 2 months and send a blast on, hey, there is a special offer that's coming up. So you can have that, what I call like a more targeted conversation than like, oh, I'm just blasting out to all my customers who have interacted with me since the dawn of time. So yeah, so again,
I would need to tag it, right?
No, you don't need to automatically tag it. As long as you've set that kind of automation of tagging in our system. You don't need to go in and read and tag. Like you
Okay.
can go in and read and tag, that's viable. Or you can just use our automation so that within that conversation, whenever they ask about that thing, a tag is added to their conversation.
All right.
Or that
Okay.
tag.
That's so
Yeah.
much more time efficient, isn't it?
Yeah. But again, there are people who prefer a customer touch, like just like a customer touch, and there are also small business owners. What they can do is actually quite easy. They can also do, hey, I can, how should I put it? Like they wanted to maintain that customer, like a personal touch, and then they would have their team to kind of sort out that conversation. Usually, I think they would already have maybe 2 to 3 people, and then they would able to track like, hey, did Amrit reply me, or did Jens reply me, or did Fiona reply me? How are they rated on the platform? So that's also another way, right? Then if using a human touch, then usually I would say I see more people using the manual way. If you're setting up an automated kind of like tree type of conversation, then we see the automated tagging.
All right. Good. Then, so that would be part of the. So I would say that you'd actually you integrate, I guess, AI into this because you've got the workflow and there will be triggers.
Yes.
And that would mean that do we have to learn any of that, or is it just easy enough for us to be onboarded without having to be technically savvy?
Yes, I think the whole reason why we designed Wati is to make it really tech easy. And and again, I think like not every one of us have time. Like obviously Wati can do really in-depth features like webhook APIs and all that, which are available for some of our more advanced customers. But we've designed the platform in a way that's really easy. So with the AI part, with the triggers, like what you just said, actually there's like 2 ways. Like one is like somebody has typed a certain word and we can use a fuzzy match to match. So say if I ask you opening hours, operating hours, when do you open? I can all answer the same thing, which is like, hey, Excella is open from 9 to 6 in Hong Kong time. I'm just making this example. But alternatively, you can also set up the trigger via a connection with another system, which is what I said, right? Hey, if there's somebody who's abandoned a cart, Shopify would know because you use that. And then it pushes up to Wati. And from Wati, you can then push out the conversation via WhatsApp. So that's also viable. So both ways are viable.
Very good. I like already the sounds of it. So how would I get started? Is
So
there a
you
trial demo?
Yes, yeah. We do have trial and demo on our website. So our website is www.wati.io. And then you can choose like, hey, like I just want to take my time to try it out. Then I would recommend you to go for a trial. I understand, like, again, I think coming back to Amrit, right? Like we're here to solve a business challenge that, different businesses owners see. And I think, hey, if you needed some help, you can obviously go to our website, or we also have a lot of YouTube videos that guide you through that. Alternatively, you can also book a time to speak with some of our team and then them to ask you these questions and helping you to kind of solve that. And again, I wouldn't say we're one size fit all. Like, we work really well with some companies. We probably don't help them solve some of the problems if it's, too manual of a process. So it's really up to you, like as a business owner, to really, really think through like, hey, what is important for you? What do you want to solve? Is this problem important enough? Like that's always like a big question that I ask every day. Yeah. And then, that's I think a really kind of critical question to ask. And hey, does this help me to grow my business? And obviously I hope we can. But the reality is like there are some businesses that are very manual, or like, you only talk to B2B buyers, right? So there's a very little small, like a relatively smaller volume comparing to a B2C business that might not be as relevant. Or maybe you're a large company and you have like 1,000 vendors. That's why it makes it very worthwhile to solve. So again, I think like think about like how important this is. How does that impact your business? I think that's the most important question.
Is there any prerequisites in order to prepare or have Wati integrated? Because do I need to have any particular style of platforms in order to integrate Wati?
Okay. So Wati is based on WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is a Meta product, and of which there are business verification steps that you need to go through. So that is kind of like limited to like, so everyone who wants to use the WhatsApp API product will need to be subject to that. So let me take a really quick step back on like, hey, what does WhatsApp API mean? Because it's not something that everyone's familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So there are free products in WhatsApp. The most simple is just a regular day WhatsApp that you use. So say, Amrit, I will be WhatsApping you, or you will be WhatsApping your family and friends. That's a regular WhatsApp business, WhatsApp personal usage. Then there's another WhatsApp app that is free. That's called WhatsApp Business. Again, you can find it on the App Store. If you're a small business, like I do encourage you to kind of start off with that because that's a free version. It's also very powerful. It allows you to do tags. What it doesn't allow you to do is the automation, integrate with other platforms, automatically trigger messages, automatically trigger personalized messages. Like that's what they don't have, right? So that's WhatsApp Business. It works really, really well for like, hey, if you have a one-man band, if you have like 2 to 3 people who read this, your flower shop, right? Like maybe you every day you get like 3 to 5 orders. Like I would say like definitely stick with WhatsApp Business because of the ease of using. There's obviously a mobile desktop version, all of that would be kind of helpful for you to kind of manage your business while you're on the go and all that. So I would definitely encourage people to start off with that. And then when you're like, hey, no, I actually, I am experiencing growing pains, which happens when you grow a business, right? You're like, oh, actually, I get maybe 100 queries every day. There's a huge demand for my business. Hey, like then I think you definitely should kind of look at WhatsApp Business API, which is the underlying technology that Wati uses to automate the conversation.
Okay. So in order to do that, there will be business verification. So you have to provide your
Yes.
BR and all that stuff. And so you
Yes,
get to,
address proof.
so that would be, how long does that take? A few
That's
days?
through Facebook.
All
It
right.
depends. Like Facebook does have like a 48-hour SLA, but it is a process 100% controlled by Meta.
Meta. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that has to be done before you can even start the trial at what?
No. So trial is free and you don't need to use your own number. So you can just test out like the platform, at least to get to think like, hey, again, these business challenges, what can I, like, does this look like what I want to use? Or, hey, is it going to solve my problems? I think that's like what the trial kind of generally uses. Then when you're like, hey, like I've decided to do that, you can purchase a Wati subscription and then you need to go through that. Those two don't need to be in parallel. Like, so you can trial it while kind of going through business verification. So there's no dependency on that.
Okay, good to know. And is there any, so to switch between the WhatsApp API, which Wati is using, to go back to WhatsApp Business, is there any disruptions in the transitions or vice versa?
Yeah, good question. So you own the number. So it's not like Wati would own your number, even if you use Wati as a product. In terms of, so you can choose which product your number is on. As I said, like it can be API. You can also connect the API to other providers. That's also viable. Again, because you own that number. I think in terms of disruption, I think what you need to think about is your chat history. So there is a way for us to export the chat history, but I don't know the vendor that say you guys choose to, or downgrading to WhatsApp Business, is it viable to import? Like I think that's the main question that you should be asking.
And coming back to the chat histories, for example, can I use that data to integrate into a marketing campaign? So, I mean, let's say I get a recurring question about a certain destination, and then can I generate more focus on a certain thing? And is there an analytical sort of supplemental tool that Wati has embedded in there, or do I have to have another application to be able to help with that for analytical purposes?
Yeah, we do have analytics for both marketing and chat. It does depend on what data you want. And then, we would need to see, hey, like, is it already in the platform? Or is it like, hey, you can do this analysis with the downloaded data, or what that is?
Okay, that's really good to know. So it's just basically trying it out and just, having a feel for what our business needs and matching it up to your tools. I thank you very much. It's really helped me to sort of look at your your solution in a different light. And I hope that that also is helping other startups and businesses that want to grow to try out the Wati platform. And I'd like to just leave it now for the members of the audience to give us some questions that they want answered from you.